The doctor's hands were shaking, not slightly, not nervously, shaking like she'd just seen something she wasn't supposed to see. She wasn't even looking at me. She was staring at my file. Then she looked up, and everything in her face changed. "Tell me," I said, "is something wrong?" She didn't answer. Instead, she stood up, walked to the door, and locked it. That was the moment I realized this had nothing to do with a routine checkup. "You need to listen carefully," she said. Her voice dropped, barely a whisper. "Your husband is trying to have you declared mentally unstable." I laughed, actually laughed, because that was ridiculous. I was fine, more than fine. I had a beautiful home in California, a successful husband, a comfortable life. Everything looked perfect. Right? Wrong. Because what she showed me next proved that my entire life was a setup, and the man I trusted more than anyone was planning to erase me. Let me explain. Because if I just told you what happened, you wouldn't believe me. I barely believe it myself. My name is Emily Carter, and until 6 months ago, I thought I had the perfect life. That was my first mistake. I met Daniel 8 years ago. He was charming, confident, the kind of man who made everyone in the room feel seen, especially me. I was working at a small marketing firm back then, just starting out. He walked in as a client, and somehow I became the one he noticed. "You don't belong here," he told me once, not in a bad way, in a "you're meant for more" kind of way. I fell for that, hard, because no one had ever looked at me like that before. No one had ever made me feel chosen. And Daniel, he was the kind of man women fought over, but he chose me. Or at least, that's what I thought. We got married 2 years later. Fast, but it didn't feel rushed. It felt right. That was my second mistake. At first, everything was perfect. We moved into a beautiful house. He encouraged me to quit my job. "Focus on yourself," he said. "I'll take care of everything." And I believed him. Because that's what love looks like, right? Wrong. It started small, always does. Little comments. "You've been forgetful lately. You okay? You seem off." At first, I laughed it off. Everyone forgets things. Everyone has bad days. But then, he started keeping track. Literally, he'd point out things I didn't remember. Conversations, decisions, plans. "You said this yesterday." "No, I didn't." "Yes, you did." And the scary part, he sounded so sure, so calm, so convincing, that I started questioning myself. That was my third mistake. Then came the notebooks. I found one in his office, black cover, my name on the front. I wish I had never opened it. Inside were notes about me, daily entries. Emily forgot where she put her keys again. Emily got confused during dinner conversation. Emily seems emotionally unstable. I felt sick. "What is this?" I asked him. He didn't panic, didn't even hesitate. "It's for your doctor," he said gently. "I've been worried about you." Worried. That word stuck with me, because it didn't feel like concern, it felt like documentation. But I ignored it, because I loved him, because I trusted him, because admitting something was wrong meant my entire life wasn't what I thought it was. And I wasn't ready for that. Then things got worse, way worse. I started losing things, not misplacing, losing important things. My passport, my jewelry, even my phone once. And every time Daniel would find them. "See," he'd say softly, "this is what I'm talking about." And every time I felt smaller, more confused, more dependent. Then one night, I woke up at 3 a.m. and Daniel wasn't in bed. I went downstairs. The lights were off, but I could hear something, a voice, his voice, talking quietly. I walked closer, heart pounding, and that's when I heard it. "Yes, she's getting worse." Silence. Then "I've documented everything." My stomach dropped. He wasn't talking to a friend or family. This was something else, something official. And that's when fear really started to creep in. But I was wrong, because that wasn't even the worst part, not even close. A week later, Daniel suggested I see a doctor. Just to be safe, he said. Just to rule things out. He smiled, held my hand, played the role perfectly, and I agreed, because part of me was starting to believe him. That was my fourth mistake. Which brings us back to that room, that locked door, that doctor. She turned the file toward me, and I saw it. Pages, dozens of them, reports, observations, evaluations, all about me, all signed by Daniel. But that wasn't the shocking part. No, the shocking part was the diagnosis. Delusional disorder, paranoia, cognitive decline. I couldn't breathe. This isn't real, I said. But the doctor didn't respond. She just looked at me, and then she said something that changed everything. Emily, I know you. My heart stopped. What? She leaned closer. It's me. Pause. Sarah. And suddenly, it all came rushing back. High school, late nights studying, shared secrets, best friends. Sarah Mitchell. The girl I hadn't seen in over a decade. The girl now sitting in front of me, holding the key to my life. And what she said next changed everything. You're not crazy, she whispered. You're being set up. And just like that, everything I thought I knew collapsed. But I didn't know yet how deep this went, or how far Daniel was willing to go. And the worst part, he thought he was winning. I stared at Sarah, trying to process what she just said. You're being set up. It didn't make sense. But somehow it explained everything, all at once. The notes, the missing items, the conversations I couldn't remember. The way Daniel looked at me lately, not with love, but with something colder, controlled, calculated. I don't understand, I whispered. Sarah didn't waste time. He's building a case, she said. Legal, medical, psychological. For what? She hesitated. That hesitation terrified me. To have you declared mentally incompetent. Silence. The kind that feels heavy, crushing. And once that happens, she looked me dead in the eyes. He gets everything. Everything. The house, the accounts, the assets, my inheritance. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about concern. This wasn't about my health. This was about money. A lot of money. Because 3 months earlier, my grandmother passed away and she left me everything, not Daniel, me. That was my fifth mistake. I thought it was coincidence, Sarah said. But your file, Emily, it's too perfect. Too perfect, that phrase stuck with me, because Daniel had always been meticulous, strategic, the kind of man who didn't leave loose ends. But why now? I asked. Sarah didn't answer immediately. Instead, she flipped to the back of the file and showed me something I wasn't supposed to see, a document, already drafted. Court submission, petition for psychiatric evaluation and guardianship, filed by Daniel Carter. My husband. My hand started shaking. Has he submitted this? Not yet, she said, but he will. When? She looked at the date. Soon. That was the moment everything changed. Because this wasn't a suspicion anymore. This was real, and I had two choices. Break down, or fight back. But I was wrong, because fighting back was going to be a lot harder than I thought. Emily, you need to be careful, Sarah said. He's been preparing this for months, and if he suspects you know. She didn't finish, she didn't have to. I nodded slowly, trying to steady myself. What do I do? She leaned closer. Act normal. Normal? Yes, no sudden changes, no confrontation. Why? Because right now, she paused. You're the unstable one. That hit hard, because she was right. On paper, I was already losing, so I went home. And I smiled. That was the hardest part. Daniel was in the kitchen, cooking, like nothing was wrong. Hey, he said warmly. How was the appointment? I forced a smile. Fine. He studied me, too closely. Everything okay? There it was, the test, and I passed. I'm just tired. He nodded, relieved. That's when I knew. He had no idea. And that was my advantage. But I didn't know yet how dangerous that advantage would become. That night I couldn't sleep. Every sound felt louder, every shadow darker. And Daniel? He slept peacefully, like a man with nothing to worry about. But I was wrong, because he wasn't just planning something, he was already executing it. The next morning, I checked our bank account, and that's when I saw it. Transactions, large ones, moving money. My money. To accounts I didn't recognize. My heart dropped, because now it wasn't just about declaring me insane, he was already taking everything. And that's when I made a decision. I wasn't going to wait. I wasn't going to play defense. I was going to destroy his plan before he could destroy me. But I needed proof, real proof, not suspicion, not feelings, evidence. And that's when Sarah came back into the picture. "We need to flip this," she said. "Make him the one under scrutiny." "How?" She smiled. The kind of smile that meant this was about to get dangerous. By letting him think he's winning. And just like that, the game changed. The next few days I became someone else. Calmer, quieter, more forgetful. I played the role perfectly. That was my first mistake. I said it out loud once, just to see his reaction, and he smiled, satisfied, because in his mind it was working, but what he didn't know was that every move he made, I was recording. Hidden cameras, audio recorders, transaction logs, everything. And then we found it, the final piece, a recording. Daniel, on the phone. Once she's declared incompetent, I get full control. Pause. Yes, the inheritance too. Silence. Then, no, she won't fight it, she's already losing it. That was it, that was the moment, because now I had everything. So we set the stage, public setting, family dinner, friends, colleagues, people Daniel cared about impressing. He didn't suspect a thing, until I stood up. "I have something to share." The room went quiet. Daniel looked confused, concerned, playing his role. And then I played mine. I hit play. His voice filled the room, clear, cold, calculated. Once she's declared incompetent, the silence that followed deepening. His face changed, fast, from confusion to panic. "Emily, what is this?" I looked at him, really looked at him. For the first time in months, I wasn't afraid. "This," I said calmly, "is the truth." And then I didn't stop. I showed everything. The notes, the documents, the transactions, the plan, piece by piece. His entire world collapsed. People started whispering, backing away, looking at him differently, because the mask was gone. "Emily, this isn't what it looks like. Stop." That was the first time I interrupted him. "You tried to erase me." Silence. "You tried to make me disappear." And then I smiled. But I was never the one losing my mind. Police were called, lawyers got involved. And Daniel, he didn't walk away from that room the same man, because the truth destroys everything built on lies. In the end, I didn't just win. I got my life back. The house, mine. The money, recovered. His reputation, gone. And Daniel? He faced charges, fraud, conspiracy, emotional abuse, justice, real justice. But here's the thing no one tells you. The hardest part isn't surviving something like that. It's realizing how close you came to losing everything. Because if Sarah hadn't been there, if she hadn't recognized me, if she hadn't spoken up, I wouldn't be telling this story. I would have been just another file, another diagnosis, another unstable woman. But I wasn't. And I'm not. Because sometimes the scariest thing isn't losing your mind, it's someone else trying to take it from you. So if something feels off, if something doesn't add up, if someone makes you question your reality, trust yourself, because I didn't, and it almost cost me everything, but not anymore, never again.